Joining me now from Sydney is Paul Fletcher, the Infrastructure and Communications Minister. Thanks for joining us, Paul. I want to come to infrastructure and Anthony Albanese's record in just a moment. But first up, I want to show you a comment from Monique Ryan, one of these teal independents, fake independents. She was in the Sky News debate today with Josh Frydenberg. She's trying to take his seat of Kooyong. And here's what she had to say about border protection.
I would end offshore detention for refugees. We need to increase our refugee intake by at least 50%.
So there we have it. She says she'd end offshore detention and increase by 50% our refugee intake. On top of that, you've got Labor saying they'd get rid of TPVs. What would a minority Labor government, perhaps relying on these independents, mean for our border security?
Well, we know that Anthony Albanese would be a weak leader. We know that he has no real support for strong border protection policies. In 2015, as recently as 2015, he was arguing against those policies at a Labor Party conference. We know that both Albanese and Christina Keneally and others can't even always accurately describe the key elements such as boat turnbacks, temporary protection visas, offshore processing. Only the coalition can be trusted to maintain strong, secure borders. We've got a consistent track record on that. It hasn't always, it's certainly not been popular with some elements of the media, but it's been the right thing to do, and we've been very consistent on it, and you just have no idea what's going to happen if Albanese becomes Prime Minister, but I think you could be very confident in predicting that we won't have strong border protection. The people smugglers will be getting the boats going straight away, and just as we saw it all crumble very quickly when Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister, we'll see it crumble again if Anthony Albanese is Prime Minister. And frankly, it may even be quicker if, as is potentially the outcome, if Labor is in minority, governing with the help of the Greens and Independents. It's going to be a weak, chaotic situation where every day he has to do deals with Independents and with the Greens to keep government going, and you can be very sure that one of the first casualties of that will be the strong, consistent record of border protection which our Liberal National Government has delivered, which has been so key to saving lives, because we know that under the previous government, under the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd government, we had large numbers of boats setting out, and tragically we had people dying at sea because of Labor's weak and inconsistent policies.
Now, in your role as a local infrastructure minister, you've had a look at Anthony Albanese's record as infrastructure minister. He proudly says he was Australia's first infrastructure minister. But we can show in the graphics here, for instance, when it comes to Western Sydney Airport, you've noted what he achieved when he was minister. Commissioned a lot of research. There was a green paper, there was a white paper, there was a joint study with the New South Wales government, and then the site of Badgerys Creek was ruled out. Now, we know that airport is now being built, no thanks to Anthony Albanese, of course. And then, of course, there was the National Broadband Network, worked out on the back of a coaster, as we know. But during his time in government, they'd spent $6 billion and only 50,000 premises have been connected. Now, that's been refined and rolled out. What are you saying here, that his record as minister is overstated?
I'm saying Anthony Albanese's record as infrastructure minister is actually very weak. When he first came into the parliament in 1996, he said a priority for him was a second Sydney airport. He became Transport and Infrastructure Minister in 2007. Here was his chance. As you've just gone through, he never delivered it. He didn't even choose a site. When a joint study that he commissioned with the New South Wales government came back and said the preferred site is Badgerys Creek, in 2012 he immediately ruled it out. So no site chosen, no sod turned. It took our government to come to power and to take the decision to go ahead in 2014. We're now almost 30% complete with Western Sydney Airport, on track to have flights commencing by late 2026. And just today, I was with New South Wales Premier Dom Perrottet announcing that construction will commence on 2 stages of the M12 motorway that will connect to the airport later this year. We're getting on with it. Liberal National Government's doing that. And Mr Albanese's record as Communications Minister, he was Communications Minister when Labor left government in 2013. the NBN was a train wreck. His defence at the time was to say, oh, well, you can't, it's the biggest infrastructure project ever, you can't just snap your fingers and make it happen. In fact, what you needed to do was be capable and competent, know what you were doing. That was the description of our Liberal National government when we came to power. We've now got 8.4 million premises connected. It was barely over 50,000 connected to the fixed line NBN when Labor left office. And just think, if Australia had, in early 2020, when the pandemic hit, if we were still stuck with Labor's hopeless rollout plan, when millions of people moved to working and studying from home overnight, when you really needed good broadband, what a mess we would have had. We would have been several million homes behind where we were. In fact, by that point, thanks to our work, 98% of all premises able to connect.
The other infrastructure idea, I suppose, that you point to is high-speed rail. We can see here on this graphic that, of course, Labor and Anthony Albanese have promised a heap of studies. Have committed $500 million for rail from Brisbane to Melbourne. But you know, you're talking here about an estimated cost of $200 or $300 billion. Now, I think this sort of plan is going to be brilliant in the country in the long run. But I mean, at the moment, it's pie in the sky, isn't it?
It's clearly pie in the sky. You know, Mr Albanese's own study, commissioned when he was infrastructure minister, said that, and that report that came down in 2012 said that work was not going to start for 10 to 20 years. So right now we'd be looking at, if you got it underway right now, nothing would happen till the 2040s. But the fact is, you know, Mr Albanese, he said in January this year in Newcastle, we in our first year, we Labor would set aside $500 million. For a project that's worth $200 to $300 billion, that's like saying, I'm going to buy a house in Sydney, median price $1.5 million, and I'm setting aside $3,750 to show you how serious I am.
Yes, it's a drop in the ocean.
It is, and there's two possible interpretations here. One, he really is going to spend $200 to $300 billion, but he doesn't want to admit that to the Australian people and say where the money's going to come from and how they're going to raise the taxes to pay for it. Or two, he's got no intention of doing it. He knows it's a pipe dream. He knows it's hopelessly uneconomic, but he just likes talking about it. Neither of those.
Sorry to jump in. Yes, sorry to jump in. Yeah, we got the point on that. I just want one final question, and quickly, if you could. You're responsible for the ABC, of course, as Communications Minister. Is it right that they don't get a leaders' debate during the election campaign? Is this a decision based on the fact that they've been biased in their political reporting throughout the past term?
Look, it's a competitive environment between all the television networks. Nobody gets a free kick here, and these are decisions made appropriately as they should be on a whole range of factors.
Does the national broadcaster deserve a debate?
Not in my view. They need to earn the right like everybody else, and nobody gets a free kick here.
Thanks for joining us, Minister. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Communications Minister Paul Fletcher there says the ABC needs to earn a debate.